And we are on the air tonight / this afternoon. I am joined with the wonderful creature Maria.
Hello.
Maria, to the few people who are not familiar with you, would you care to introduce yourself?
I'm a YouTuber, I guess, slash Twitter person.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to do political content, but now I have decided I want to move away from that. So I guess that's one of the topics we're going to be discussing.
Yeah, would you like to go into why you think you want to move away from uh, political content?
Well, I just got a bit burnt out on politics. I guess I've been pretty much every ideology you can imagine
Mm-hmm.
since like 2016 approximately. And yes, it's been like 5 years just doing this, and I feel like I've got everything out of it that I could get, and I wasn't seeing myself really like giving anything to other people in this
Mm.
context, like being very productive to actually use politics to help other people and stuff like that. So if it was just about making entertainment content, basically, I thought it would be more fulfilling for me at this point to try something else. So what I've been trying to do is maybe shift into a more like media analysis type of channel. And yeah, I've just started doing that.
Mm-hmm. So, what sort of media are you interested in analyzing?
Right, so the first video I've made in this new phase of my life was about the Brazilian teenage soap opera.
Oh, so
Which is it's been running for I think like 20 years, over 20 years, because I remember it was a whole thing when it was like the 20th anniversary.
yeah.
And approximately like every year there's a new series, and sometimes it's the same characters in the same school, but sometimes it's a different school, sometimes it's not even a school, it's just young people in some other context. But yeah, like all in all, it's been 20 years on air, and it's like a huge staple of Brazilian television. It's called Malhação, which is the Portuguese word for like fitness, like when you go to the gym or like working
Mm.
out. Because the very first seasons were set in a gym, but then it moved to a school. So like now it is just the name that remained with this kind of fitness working out theme, which is a bit odd. But yeah.
So the fitness working out theme is kind of dead, really. It's more just about like these are the lives of teenagers that used to be primarily focused
Yeah.
on the gym as the main set. Then they got a higher budget. Oh, we can do a school now and other locations.
Yeah, I don't know why it shifted. That would be something interesting to look into. A few years back, I think it was like 2017. I don't know, that could be
Mhm.
totally wrong, but like more recently, when I was old enough to watch it, there was one series that was set in a gym again, but it was really bad and nobody liked it.
So that probably killed the idea forever. They're like, no,
Yeah.
let's just stick to the new old instead of the old old.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Degrassi.
Yeah. When I actually had made a video about the show on my old channel, and some people said it sounded like the Brazilian Degrassi.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's Canadian. So,
Oh,
um, yeah, I've never watched Degrassi. I might try it out. I am a kicker for teen content, especially if it stars actual teenagers. I don't know why.
yeah, I love teen shows and films and stuff like that.
I feel like it's probably because I didn't really allow myself to have like much of an adolescence. Like I just kind of like prematurely old now. I'm like spiritually in my 40s or something. So I watch the teenage content to reminisce about what could have been. I
Yeah,
don't know.
there's definitely some kind of like nostalgia to it now that we're young
Mhm.
adults that we like to consume that kind of content.
Yeah. I was watching though this British one called Skins.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
I really like the song performance, and that was what actually got me into the show. On the house where you live, or on the street where you live, I think they removed that from the Netflix version of Skins, but it's sung by in season one. There's this boy. I think his name is Toby. he seems like outwardly very nice, but like go a little past that surface and he's like very toxic and bad.
Wait, do you mean Tony?
Tony. Yes, I do
Right,
mean
right, right.
Tony.
Yes.
Remember, this is
Yes.
me half remembering people's names. I'm so terrible with names, especially with fictional characters. But yes, Tony delivers a very amazing rendition of On the Street Where You Live from My Fair Lady. And while I was Googling that, I found out about Skins. And I'm like, wow, I actually need to watch this show. I haven't finished season 1 yet, but I'm excited. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, I'm so happy you're watching it. The
Mhm.
Echo is back, by the way. It's definitely on your end.
All right.
But
I will mute myself when you.
okay. So yeah, I'm so happy for you because I love that show. It was like one of the I don't know if it was one of the first like British shows I got into, but it was one of like it was the most like iconic, the most like quintessential thing because it was a whole thing when I was 17. I met this guy online and at the time I was still obsessed with the US and then I kind of shifted the obsession to the UK because of this guy. And he was kind of like this emo grungy person and I was that as well, and Skins is like this emo grungy show and we were both into that and I fucking loved Effie. Like, oh my god, Effie Stoneham is a queen. And actually one time when I went to the UK in I think 2018, there was this cop at the customs part of the airport and he was like, "Oh my god, you're from Brazil? How did you get this accent? Like all kind of suspicious almost." And I was like, "I don't know, just from watching shows and stuff." And he's like, "What shows?" I was like, "The fuck, this cop asking me what shows I watch." I was like, I don't know, like Skins." And he was like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense."
Oh my goodness. Like the police really do find just any reason to be like, oh, that's a little suspicious, isn't it? You know, they just kind of love lording that power over people, even in completely absurd contexts like accents.
Yeah.
But no, I've always loved your accent. Um, and I think it suits you very well. And it's good that you became obsessed with the UK, I think, rather than the US, because that would have been extremely unbased of you.
Yeah, no, it was super cringe when I was obsessed with
Mhm.
the US, and I was like really obsessed. Like one time I even posted on Twitter, now I've deleted it because I delete all my tweets like every few months.
Mhm.
But I had like pictures taken with a with a cardboard cutout of Obama. Um like in the middle of the street. I used to dress up for Independence Day because, like, one time I spent it in New York. It was the first time I actually went to the US, and I
Mhm.
was all dressed up in like a red, white, and blue outfit with a little flag in my hand that I was waving around. I also dressed up as like the Statue of Liberty in the middle of the street because, like, for some reason there was like a person actually full on dressed as the statue, and then
Mhm.
if you wanted, they would give you like the torch and the crown and a US flag to like wrap around you like a toga and take a picture, and I did that.
Oh, no. And I wonder if that picture exists somewhere.
It does. It does. I'll tweet it out again sometime.
And then promptly delete it along with the other
Yes.
tweet. Oh my goodness. And to think, imagine if that had been the first Maria I had met instead of, you know, because you've certainly been on a political journey. And while I also have been on weird ideology spins before, you, I think, have bought out the supermarket.
Yes.
So first anarcho-capitalism, then vague sort of liberal progressivism, then
Yes.
Marxism, and then I don't care, I just want things to be better.
Yes, basically.
But like, yeah, I kind of find myself sometimes leaning towards that opinion because like the way I think we have conversations is so unproductive and so concentrated on things that have no material impact on people's lives. Like, think of how much more people talk about their beef with like Destiny than they talk about like Bolsonaro or something,
Yeah.
or Greg Abbott, or any of these numbers of like horrible, powerful figures that are actively making our world a worse place. Instead, it's all focused on this influencer is mean. this influencer said something toxic. You know, we need to remove this influencer from our spaces. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really like influencers very much, so I can understand why you have that perspective. But it seems like a matter of priority sometimes.
Yeah, it seems like it's a different thing, really. It's just, yeah, like a lot of people say it's more entertainment than politics. It's just like entertainment that happens to have a political sort of like, what you call it, a veneer. But it's not really politics. It's more entertainment, right? It's more like the way we engage with this is more similar than to how we engage with like any influencer than the way you should engage with politics if you really want to have some kind of concrete effect on people's lives.
Yeah. And that includes right down to like the drama, the tea, who's gossiping about who hates who likes who, you know, these whole like these webs of alliance. I once had this person who like, oh, some one of these days I want to map out all of the different Twitter alliances and groups of left Twitter. And I'm like, have you heard yourself? First of all, you'll never ever going to be able to do that.
You're gonna go insane before you finish.
And second of all, why?
It's like it's exactly what people do with like Game of Thrones or something like that.
Yeah, like, oh, which character will betray the Starks in this season of Game of Thrones? Hi, it's your boy, Theorizer Fan, back at you again with another video. They always seem to have that voice. Anyway, I just want to shout out to the 3 amazing people who are watching, cause my wonderful girlfriend Lynn and Memes. Thank you for tuning in. Maria appreciates you as well.
I do.
So were you ever a fan of Game of Thrones?
No, I've actually never seen a single episode. I think I imagine I probably got turned off just because it was so mainstream, and there was a period in my life that I just hated anything that was mainstream.
Yeah.
And I also hated anything with like sex scenes, so I just decided it was not for me. But I don't know, like that was years ago, right? Because I think it's kind of old now, Game of Thrones, right? It seems like it's something that's still, I don't know, like it's part of the present, but it's not, is it?
What's part of the present is the sort of the legacy of Game of Thrones, the legacy of disappointment from season 8, and people just kind of gradually realizing that the show was maybe worse than they thought to begin with, or it just kind of soured their experience with it. And there's this
I did watch the Lindsay Ellis videos about it.
Yes, well, we must watch the Lindsay Ellis videos about everything, every single time they come out on the spot. That's how you engage with content. Yes. I have very few content creators that are like that. I'm a bit like that with What's a Face, Sarah Z. She makes a lot of good content, a lot of good analyses. Quentin Reviews I've actually been finding very helpful as a sleeping aid. I just put on his victorious 5-hour rant thing, and then I close my eyes, and I have this horrible insomnia problem, but when his voice is playing, it just seems to gradually lead me to sleep.
I have yet to watch the Victorious one. I think he did stuff on iCarly as well, right? I saw that one.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting looking back at those Nickelodeon shows and being like, wow, I did not remember this being problematic in any way.
Yeah.
Like, why is it? Like, it seems weird that it is, but it is. There's a lot
different
of
times.
Racial undertones to a lot of this stuff. And I don't know. It's interesting. At least that's what I was kind of getting from the Kevin reviews. Unfortunately, there was even a transphobic joke, which, I mean, they just kind of tossed those things in there, I guess. But you can't really expect to go back like 10, 20 years and then find people to have the same social ideas as today, you know?
Yeah, I'm actually getting an idea right now that I think, as far as I know, nobody has done a sort of deep dive into Nerds Declassified. That's the one Nickelodeon show I've never seen a video essay about. I don't know if it's because it's totally, perfect, unproblematic, and the best show, or if it's just because nobody has looked. I should look.
Memes says, my D&D DM got me into it. First 2 episodes were slow and would have stopped watching if it weren't for encouragement. Then it was amazing for a while. It really was. Like, or I really enjoyed it. I was too mainstream, I guess. I read the books when I was like 11 and 12 and then started watching the show around when it was coming out. It was big in middle school. And I don't know, I got really into it. And then season 5 happened and I'm like, oh, this is a little weird. It's a little wonky. This is not how I remember. And then season 6 happened and I'm like, oh, something is definitely off. And then season 7 happened. I'm like, please let it just end well at this point. And then season 8 happened and it made the last 3 seasons look good. And it made the first 4 seasons look amazing. But the whole thing has now become, I just rewatch clips. I can't rewatch the whole show because I know what it's building to and I hate what it's building to.
So it's bad in like a proper disappointing way, right? It's not bad in like a funny way or anything like that.
No, that's the sad thing. Like a movie that's bad in like an actual like funny way, like The Room or David Lynch's Dune, they will be forever enjoyable to me. I can watch them anytime and I will enjoy it so much. It will inject life back into my veins. I will just feel so good. But with movies that are like legitimately just bad and boring, or TV shows in this case, there's no value there. And I feel like that's often why bad comedy is the worst genre of all.
Yeah, that makes sense because if you don't find it funny, there's just nothing else that you can get from it.
Mm-hmm. Like bad drama is often so funny. Like,
right.
in fact, I think bad drama can sometimes work better than good drama just because of the humor factor.
Yeah, no, I was thinking the other day, there's very few actual comedy, like intentional comedy things that I like, but bad drama can be good comedy.
Yeah. And in fact, maybe my favorite comedy genre is
exactly same.
But like, I don't know. Maybe I don't have like too many favorite comedians. I like Bo Burnham, I guess. But I don't usually have any other comedians that I'm like, oh yeah, I know that comedian's name. I love all of their work. Like I've watched the Monty Python stuff. It seems good. It's funny. I like it. But I don't like from there, what do I, it's just funny. I don't like go and watch the movies or anything. But when it comes to like movies that are intentionally designed to be comedies, especially if they're like lowbrow kind of what they call adult comedy, which is really weird because it's not really very adult. It's more like 12-year-old. Like
it's like 12-year-old who wants to feel like they're grown up.
Mm-hmm. That kind of comedy, like I cannot get into it at all. It just it's unappealing. And it's particularly true in animation. Like, have you noticed this thing with adult animation cartoons where there's like a sort of almost deliberate ugliness to the animation style?
Yeah, I've seen people comment on that. Yeah, I personally don't like the styles very much. I don't know if I'd say like it's ugly or it's intentionally ugly, but I can definitely say that I don't find it very appealing.
Like Big Mouth. There are these disgusting lips, and the lips just move up and down, and they unsettle me. And they shouldn't be that big. Like, I get that your show is named Big Mouth, but could they maybe have smaller mouths, please?
My favorite animation style ever is the 16 animation style. You're Canadian, so you have to know that show.
I do know that show. I actually grew up watching that show. I actually do kind of like low budget Flash animation. I don't know why. Yeah, it has a certain look to it that works. And I don't know, like there is something to be said about 16. It was I recently kind of started to revisit it a little and I'm like, oh wow, this is actually better than I remember. And I remembered it being pretty decent. Like there was a lot of bad shows on TV in like the 2000s. It was kind of a desert if you were a kid in some respects. But I don't know. I always did like 16.
Yeah, a while ago I started rewatching 16 as told by Ginger, which is less popular than I thought it was, but that was a big thing for me. And also I watched all of Lizzie McGuire, which was very good. I thought it was like kind of like a lesson in screenwriting because I found it very interesting to see like what plots they'd come up with and yeah, I don't know, just like understand this kind of TV show format better, and like a 22-minute episode TV show format, right? Because nowadays I feel like TV shows are so much like longer and kind of like more complex. So
Mhm.
Lizzie McGuire was quite simple, but it was very effective and very entertaining.
Yeah. The one thing I will say though, I think TV shows fall into two categories. They've kind of, you're right that they're starting to eschew the 22-minute episode format in favor of a shorter episode that's like 12 or 6 minutes, or a longer episode that's more like 44 minutes.
Yeah,
In the,
like 45 minutes is what I always see.
yeah,
What do you mean by like 12 or 6? Like I've never seen a show like that.
I've seen this pops up a lot more in animation. I've seen it
Oh.
in Adventure Time, Steven Universe, I think Gravity Falls as well. Um,
Hmm.
there was this period where a lot of people were using this format. And what is it called? Bee and Puppy Cat? That's a web series that I really like. It's like the most funded thing that's ever been on Patreon in terms of animation. I don't know what kind of who compiled that statistic, so I'm not sure how trustworthy it is. I do know that it raised $1.4 million, which is pretty good for a mainly unknown creator. And now it's coming out on Netflix, or the second season is coming out on Netflix sometime in like 2022, 2023. I don't know. I'm excited for that. It has a nice sort of vibe.
Cool. Yeah, I've seen Gravity Falls, and I was thinking the other day that I should rewatch it, because sometimes I think like, oh yeah, I've seen Gravity Falls, but then like, when was that? And it was like 7 years ago.
Yeah. I've never actually seen Gravity Falls all the way. I don't know any of the spoilers. So chat, do not spoil me for Gravity Falls. I will
I
be
don't
so
remember any of
disappointed
the
in you.
spoilers.
That's good. Like I did watch Gravity Falls episodes when I was a kid, but it was all sort of like out of number. You know how it sometimes is when you're a kid. You don't necessarily deliberately watch every episode every week. It's like you catch what's on when it's on. And you're like,
Mhm.
oh, good, I like this show. It's on.
Yeah. Yeah, now that I'm thinking, I don't know when Gravity Falls came out, because I think I still watched TV at that time. But I
Mhm.
only watched the show like much later, when I didn't watch TV anymore, and I watched it online, and I watched like every single episode.
I think it was 2012 to 16 is when the show came out.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that is old.
It's weird to think of that time period as old, but now that I'm like, oh yeah, I would have been like 10 or 11 around then.
Yeah.
It does actually. It is quite a long time ago. Um, but I don't know. I'm grateful to shows like It and Adventure Time, because I do think they kind of kickstarted this new animation thing, and also this new sort of trend where millennials and young adults are actually into animation as well. And I think
Yeah.
that that was sort of there in anime, but not necessarily as much in Western animation until recently. Oh, thank you so much, Ms. Redstone. That's very kind of you. A shout out to Miss Redstone for that lovely compliment. Should find something nice to say about Maria too, or she'll get jealous.
My voice is calming too. I was editing my my next video, which is about Dune, and I thought it was. I mean, some people describe my videos as like boring
Your
and
videos are
dead.
not boring. Who
No,
are these
not the videos,
people?
not the videos, but like the way I talk. Which,
Mhm.
yeah, it's not terribly exciting. It's kind of deadpan. I see that, and like I'm fine with that. But some people find it boring. Some people find it relaxing. And I thought this Dune one is going to be particularly relaxing. It's going to be basically like soft-spoken ASMR in the form of a Dune analysis.
Yeah, I love Dune so much. I can't get enough of the Dune universe. I love Dune so much that I even like found a video game mod for Dune that was
Wow.
based on like a very old video game from 2006. And I've been playing that as well. I wrote this whole like weird fan fiction scenario for why things would happen in the video game. I don't know. Dune is just a universe I really like. The concept of like this neo-feudal. I love the mix of really old and really new elements, as well as like kind of
Mhm.
alternate futures where technology doesn't turn out quite how you'd expect. So instead of like maybe something like Star Trek, or something a bit more like the Imperium of Man, which is a bit more expected, you get this sort of weird neo-feudalism that has like sort of a lot of low-tech elements because of the shielding technology. Just shooting guns at people has become kind of obsolete. I really like that concept. It's cool. And I love the all the sort of things that the spice does, even if it is a little bit of a MacGuffin. Like the spice seems to do like everything, but it still has all of these weird, neat, cool factions like the Bene Gesserit or the Bene Telexelu. I think that's how it's pronounced. The Fremen and all the different.
So you're a book fan, right? You've been a fan. Wait, actually, I guess I should ask, how long have you been a fan for?
I've been a fan since I saw David Lynch's Dune when I was like 2015.
Oh.
Not when I was 2015. I thought 2015 years old.
In 2015.
In 2015. Yes, that is what I meant to say. I am human now, said Mark Zuckerberg. And I was human.
So you actually enjoyed Lynch's film, which a lot of people don't like.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like sci-fi The Room.
Right.
It's so funny. It's exactly within that bad drama equals good comedy element. There's one scene in the movie where a character carries a pug while shooting a gun at people.
Wow, I need to watch that. I've been meaning to watch it because I wasn't even like aware of Dune until everyone on Twitter started talking about it when, you know, the new film came out actually don't know, because apparently it had come out in some countries like a month before it came out in the US, and I'm pretty sure in Brazil it also came out at the same time as the US, which was like late October. So yeah, that was basically when I became a fan. I just saw everyone talking about it and I was like, oh, the worm film, the sand film, and I was like, yeah, the Chalamet film, which surprisingly, like if you know anything about me, which I don't know if I've ever talked about this publicly, but but it's a very like strong thought in my own mind, at least, that I am very into skinny white guys with curly brown hair. But surprisingly, I hadn't been obsessed with Timothée Chalamet until this movie. But you know, I had like seen his face and I liked it, so I was like, yeah, hell yeah, let's go see what this is about with the sand and the worm and the Chalamet. But I didn't really know much more about it, and I actually liked it a lot.
Yeah, I really like the guy who plays the Duke. We get a nice scene of him without a shirt, although it's in a rather weird context.
Right, I think that's Oscar Isaacs, right?
Oscar Isaacs, there we go. Look at you remembering names. Yes, it is Patrick Stewart who is the one carrying the pug in the scene where he's shooting the gun. It's so funny. Just do yourself a favor, watch David Lynch's Dune. It doesn't matter if it's the original cut is the best for making absolutely no sense. But if you want to watch like a decent version that has, you know, like a bit more of a weight to it, there's a lot of fan edits available for free on YouTube. Anyway, yes, Timothée Chalamet. I adore him. I watched, which is weird because I actually watched a movie, like his cinematic debut with the now canceled Armie Hammer. And
Call Me By Your Name.
Yeah. Call Me By Your Name. Didn't remember it at all. And then I was like, it didn't stick in my mind until Armie Hammer apparently is horrible. And I'm like, okay. Wait, didn't I see like an art house movie starring this guy? Okay, bye. And then Timothée Chalamet stars in Dune, and honestly, I'm reading the book now and he's so perfect for Paul. He just captures him so well, like this kind of awkwardness, but there's also like a sort of cerebral quality to him, but also a very real vulnerability. And yeah, he's a fabulous little man, or tall man.
So you're reading the book now too? You hadn't read it before? I
haven't read the book before. And that was because I was somewhat discouraged from it by a friend. They're like, this book is weird, don't read it. I'm like, okay. I like the movie. And it is weird. So I don't know why I listened to that advice, but my Dune fascination has removed all inhibitions. And now I am reading the Dune book It's pretty good, actually. I like it has a lot of emotion to it, which is I wasn't expecting, because a lot of the Dune media seems to be rather like, I think it's because they seem to have a difficulty adapting the characters' thoughts into words.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of emotion in the Dune book is characters trying to control their emotions and outwardly expressing something that's a bit more calm and refined because of the society that they're living in. Um, but I think a lot of the movies don't necessarily capture that, and they just have the characters say the dialogue from the book without that context of you're saying this dialogue while thinking something a lot more emotional and impactful.
Yeah,
And
I've been reading the book too, but I haven't got very far into it yet. I'm on page like 160, I think, just after the dinner scene, which they cut from this new movie. But on a comment on a YouTube video about it, I saw someone saying that they didn't like how Lady Jessica in the new movie actually expresses some kind of fear, even though, you know, she's by herself, she's not doing it in front of anyone. But they didn't like how she expressed fear in the Gom Jabbar scene. And then there was someone responding to that saying that, you know, that was the way that they found to have her fear be present in the film, because it's exactly like you said, it's like the characters are always trying to conceal their emotions, and how you're gonna translate that to a visual medium where, you know, you need to see the emotion but they don't want to show it to you. So I guess the new film was did a decent job at that.
oh, do you want to know what the David Lynch version did?
Yeah.
The amazing decision that the David Lynch film did to decide to convey that aspect of the book is that it had the characters constantly internally monologuing their thoughts from the book. And oftentimes it would be thoughts that they would actually say a few seconds later. For
Wow, that
instance, there's
sounds good.
one scene where, you know, the Bene Gesserit mother Gotham, or whatever her name is.
Yeah.
It's Gaius Gotham or something like that. She holds the Gom Jabbar to Paul's throat, and she does that whole test scene. There's a scene in the David Lynch version where she interior monologues to herself, "Could he be the one?" And then immediately, 5 seconds after that, she says, "There was the story that a chosen one might emerge. I think you might be that one." And I'm like, literally, why did you keep that thought in? It adds nothing to her character.
Yeah, I want to watch this movie. You're really selling me on it.
It's so good. You will not be disappointed.
But
There's
in the
also
book, I really enjoyed the inner monologues. I actually tweeted about it because I find it very didactic how it actually explains like the motivations behind every single thing that they do, and that's like really important, because another thing I like about the book is that it explores like these kind of interpersonal political games, like how politics are done in like this very small level of like, you can't offend this person, or you have to, you know, say a certain thing, you have to be careful with your tone of voice and everything like that, because that can like make or break a nation when you're in such an important position. And yeah, I actually really like that the book actually explains every little thing. I thought some people might find it boring or annoying or like too didactic, but I actually appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. And also, the Dune book is probably really good at the way it doesn't lore dump. That's a big problem with
Mm-hmm.
the David Lynch one, is that it opens with this long monologue from a character whose only line in the entire movie after that is, "Yes, father." I wish I was making that up. And partway through the monologue, she seems like she's finally done, and then her face pops back into focus, and she says, "Oh wait, I forgot to tell you," and keeps monologuing. I, I, it's a thing of beauty, really.
I need to watch it. It's like it's kind of like the same. I don't know if it's the same, but it reminds me of Riverdale in the sense that, again, it's like a bad show that's really funny.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It does have Riverdale energy.
Mhm.
Some scenes. There is also a. I don't know if you have you ever heard of Sting
No, I don't think so.
from The Police? A
No,
band? Oh,
no.
okay. I
Oh
guess it
wait. Sting, like he was a what was he? Yeah. The musician. Yeah. I've heard of him.
he plays one of the villains. He plays Fade Rotha, who got cut, and that was the one decision in the 2021 Dune that I
Oh,
was so angry
right,
about. Where
right.
was the where was Baron Harkonnen's hot nephew? Like he had
Well,
the ugly nephew,
I've
and then he had a
seen
hot nephew.
pictures. I've seen pictures of him in Lynch's movie, and I was kind of like, why does he look like this? But now that you're telling me he was a rock star, yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. That's why. And also they tried to sell Dune on the star/sex appeal of Sting. There's even a scene where he's shirtless and pantless except for like a very tiny leather blue Speedo.
Yeah, those are the images I've seen.
I think I might have shared them. You might have seen them from my account. Can neither confirm. Oh, he's confirmed to be in the second movie. Yes. Okay. I love the second movie way more now. I thought they were just going to cut out Fade Rotha, and I was so angry because I like him so much. I don't know. I like bad men,
Yeah.
but also attractive. But
Yes,
I like
yes,
the Baron.
attractive bad men.
I like the Baron as well. Like, and he's good, but I've never gotten into the Beast Raban because he's a rather one note villain in the miniseries in David Lynch's Dune. He hasn't actually appeared yet in the Dune book, so maybe he's a bit more of a three-dimensional character there. But in all the Dune media I've watched so far, he's just kind of the guy that yells awkwardly. Actually, that was a really funny scene in the Dune 2021. Remember when Raban like yells awkwardly, and then the Mentat and all the bald servants just like look at him and they're like, "Dude, why are you yelling?" What's something else you like about the 2021 version?
Watch my video to find out. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, what you were talking about earlier about how it's this kind of blend of the distant past and the distant future was something that I liked a lot about it, because the first thing I kind of thought to myself when I got to the cinema was like, wow, this is different from what you'd normally expect from like futuristic space sci-fi, right? It's not all like silvery gadgets and that kind of thing, which I personally don't like. I thought it had like these kind of historical vibes that you usually find in fantasy. And then when I got home, I started researching because I just wanted to like read about the production design, the costume design, and stuff like that. And I found out that was exactly the approach that they were going for, that they wanted to make, they called it like a futuristic take on the past, because like you said in the book, it's there's the feudalism element and there's the low tech element. So yeah, it was going to be something different than the usual sci-fi that's all shiny tech and gadgets and aliens and stuff like that. So I thought that was something very unique about it for a sci-fi film, right? So I was like, finally a sci-fi film that I can enjoy, like a sci-fi film with an aesthetic that suits my taste. And that's basically what my video is going to be about.
Yeah, like I can get into a little bit of the more like cyberpunk, like neon lighting, like gringy and decaying sort of sci-fi, but I've never got into like the look, more bland gray corridors where bland people wearing bland gray uniforms are marching around.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels very inspired. And also I don't understand why would color not exist in the future? Why would people suddenly start to hate color and like, no, gray will be our only aesthetic because that's cool.
To be fair, people do that a little bit now, where like, for example, cars are always silver or black.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but I don't know if I find that to be a good thing or not.
Mm-hmm. That was kind of like a return to tradition thing though, because like cars used to be just black. That used to be the only color
Right.
you could get them in.
True.
And I think that the problem with, I think, Western minimalism, which is a complete weird context. Sorry, shifting the
Nah,
conversation
let's go.
based on my weird, wild train of thought. The problem with Western minimalism is that it tries to imitate Japanese styles of art and Chinese feng shui without really understanding the spiritual and cultural importance of these practices. And also, it's not based on scarcity out of necessity, as is often the case on Japan. There isn't terribly much wood, you know? So you wouldn't have a whole this bunch of pointless furniture because that would be a waste of space, you know? And you wouldn't have all these walls and things when you could just use screens to divide the house as you need to. But the thing is, in a lot of Western minimalism, it's very, very rich people who could very easily afford to make their house look occupied. And instead, it feels like a ghost town. You know, I don't know. You see some of these pictures of these American mansions being built in Texas for tax reasons. I'm convinced it has to be for tax reasons. Why would you want to live in Texas for another reason? Anyway, so you go inside these houses and there's so much empty space. There's nothing there. It's honestly like, I wouldn't be surprised if like a mini tornado started to form there. It's just a vacuum.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like a design principle that I learned from this ASMR video, which is titled like something like classy design, or like how to make your interiors timeless and look like high end. And apparently one of these like high end design principles is to not have like too much clutter, to actually leave some space empty, because otherwise your eyes get tired. So like, yeah, that makes sense. It's not even like a rich people thing. It's just a thing that makes sense. But I guess maybe rich people, some of them kind of like take this really overboard, and like, whereas in the past, clutter used to be a symbol of status. Now I guess like emptiness is a symbol of status, but it's just not pleasant.
Yeah. It really isn't. It doesn't feel like a livable space, like a space that you would enjoy being in. And like, there's something so cold about all that marble and stone and tile. There's no carpet. There's no lushness. There's no cozy corners. I don't know. Personally, I do want to bring back the very, very sort of cluttered, all sorts of little bits of furniture and knickknacks, all in a nice, tight little space. I don't know. Not only does it conserve a lot more things that you could be using for, I don't know, like plants or something, but it's also just my personal taste. And even if it was bad, I'd probably still defend it. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I actually prefer less clutter, some warmth, but less clutter. For one thing, because I think it's nicer to look at, but for another thing, because you have to clean it. So the more stuff you have, the more stuff you have to clean. But that was actually something I appreciated in Dune 2021, where everything was like this kind of brutalist base, but then each of the environments had something that added some warmth to it. So in the Caladan Palace, there was the library with those carved pieces of furniture with the carpet. That was nice. In the Arrakis Palace, there were those murals with the fish and the worm. So usually, like when people talk about, oh, in the communist future, everything should be brutalism, I'm like, please, no. But because I hate it, and I just had this idea that like, oh my God, I hate brutalism. But then in Dune, it was actually a different type of brutalism that I could appreciate, because it did have like these little warm details.
Yeah. And I think that's probably what people really mean when they say brutalism. Of course, you do have the few types who are just unironic, concrete apologists. They are revisionist. It's a unprincipled, unscientific, anti-Leninist deviation that there will be no tolerance for on this account. But
it's just not dialectical.
No, not materialist. It's so formalist, just no. I love how there's so many different words to cancel things in Marxist Leninism. You can call it Trotskyite. You can call it revisionist. You can call it formalist. You can call it subversive. You can call it bourgeois. Whatever it is, there's a word. But I don't know. I see what you mean, though, the kind of a warmth in brutalism. I also kind of saw that in Paul's bedroom in Arrakis, because there was this, like, it was very sparse, but there was this really nice mural on the back with all sorts of really pretty gold designs.
Yeah, the fish mural. Have you got to that part in the book yet? I haven't, but I've heard that it was kind of like a little plot thing around the fish in the book, which I don't know if you want to be spoiled on that or not.
So I have gotten to the well, not the fish part, but I have gotten to the hunter seeker part in the book. Where
Right. Yeah, I guess this won't be a spoiler. But like, so you know that the Harkonnen did the whole hunter seeker attack, but apparently they were also the ones who designed that mural to make sure Paul would pick that room because it's something from his homeworld that he was leaving behind. So maybe he'd be like kind of nostalgic for fish, which is something that they don't have on Arrakis. I thought that was really, really clever.
That is. And I also, like, I don't know, the Harkonnen are actually like really more intelligent in the book, and you get to see, wow, their plan's actually pretty well thought out. Where in the movie, I mean, I guess the Baron is kind of clever, but like Raban isn't supposed to be smart, so I guess that tracks. But you don't really get to see too much of the kind of scheming and cunning aspect of the Harkonnens, and that's supposed to be their thing, not just sheer force and brutality, but it's that they're very gifted in intrigue, that they know how to pinpoint their enemies' weaknesses and find the little cracks and crevices they can use. I also thought the approach to the approach to how they approached. Sorry, that was a very redundant sentence. I'm not going to say approach again. The way they chose to depict Dr. Yueh in the film versus the book is very interesting. So, spoilers if you haven't seen Dune 2021 and are not wanting to be spoiled on this particular detail. Dr. Yueh is traitor. He is a traitor. And in the movie, he's more of like a minor character that appears in 3 scenes, and then he's like, my wife was captured. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Like, good for you, dude. And then he dies like a scene later. But in the book, like, instead of being like, I won't tell you who the traitor is, the Baron's like, oh yeah, it's obviously this guy. And the trick is more, how did you convince this person who's supposed to be completely, loyal and unable to lie to work for you? And we have sort of the answers, but not the whole picture yet in the Dune book, at least from where I am at like page 120.
Yeah, and again, with the monologues, I thought his character has been more interesting in the book so far because there's a lot more of him like struggling with, the whole betrayal thing that he has to do. Whereas in the film, it's just kind of like, well, he had to do the thing, so he did the thing and bye. And that would be something that would be kind of difficult to translate onto the screen.
I think they sort of do it in David Lynch's Dune. Either have the Harkonnens actually say who it is, and then every scene with Dr. Yueh, you have this sort of tension. Oh my God, that's who it is. That's the traitor. I feel like that, I didn't like it at first, but now I'm like, wait, maybe there isn't any reason to have it be a plot twist for the audience. Isn't it more suspenseful to know at all moments that these people are around the actual traitor when they're targeting each other? When they're suspecting people who are completely innocent? That actually creates some real tension because, we don't know what he's going to do next.
Yeah.
Whereas in the movie, he's like kind of an unmemorable character, and, you don't really have any sort of empathy for him, really. Like, oh no, he's dead now. I'm sad, I guess.
You don't really have like this kind of build up, right? Like his thing in the film is pretty much just like when he's actually doing something, but there isn't this moment of like tension, as you said, because there's often more tension in like when you're waiting for the jump scare or waiting for the act of betrayal than when it actually happens, right?
Yeah, because if it's just like, and the traitor was some random guy,
Yeah,
Your reaction
exactly.
to what I don't care. It's kind of, this is a really weird comparison, but remember in Zootopia where the villain turns out to be some random sheep that was in 2 scenes?
I haven't seen that.
Okay, I spoiled that. Sorry. I should have
That's fine.
asked, have you seen Zootopia?
It's fine.
What is a movie that you've seen with a disappointing twist villain then? Have you seen Big Hero 6?
No.
Ah! Okay. I should just let you tell me of a movie with a disappointing twist villain.
I'm probably not going to be able to think of any. But yeah, no, but I definitely get what you're saying. Like, it has to be built up. It can't just be some random person that, it's whatever. I guess Pretty Little Liars did that a little bit with with some of the A reveals, which I guess I'm not going to spoil that show from fucking 30 years ago.
I mean, I'm probably not going to watch it, and I'm not sure too many people on the stream are going to watch it. Okay, let's put it for this. Anyone who is going to watch Pretty Little Liars, beware.
No,
Maria,
but if you're not going to watch it, you should watch it because it's fun.
Oh, I have seen the first season, so maybe I'll keep watching it then. You know what?
And then
It's got
in
the Maria
the
seal of approval.
well, but now you've made me want to talk about the spoilers because one of the really bad A reveals was actually kind of transphobic. I remember that now because they made it out like it was like there was this, God, I don't even remember because the plot of the whole show was so convoluted, but basically there was this person that everyone thought was a guy, and then it turned out to be a trans girl, and like they couldn't figure out that it was her because they thought it was a guy. So one of the A's, probably the A with like the weirdest kind of unearned reveal, was also trans. And then there was a part when Hannah's whole thing was like getting mad at A and referring to A as like she's saying something like, I don't know, like, you're not going to win, you he, she, it. And then it turned out that was about a trans person. It was really weird. I think they should have stopped. When I was watching it, I remember thinking like there were 2 points when I thought they should have just ended the show. I think it was when A was revealed to be Mona. I was like, okay, you could have ended it here. And then later on, I don't remember what the other thing was, but there was another point where I was like, okay, now would be a great time to end the show. But no, they just kept going and going and going, and it just got like really bad.
Well, it's like the Riverdale thing, because like there's probably moments where Riverdale could have ended and not been the worst show ever.
Yeah.
And honestly, I feel like Riverdale could have done something interesting with the whole Archie's dad got shot. He should have just died.
Mm-hmm.
He should have died. But instead, it was so unfortunate because the actor in real life died, and then they had to kind of kill him off 2 seasons after he was in the show killed.
Yeah.
And if they just committed to the bit where he was already dead, then there would have been no issue.
Yeah.
And I feel really bad for the actor who died I don't remember exactly how he died, but I do feel bad for him. But the whole material of the premise of the second season doesn't work if you wimp out on killing Archie's dad.
Yeah, I remember seeing a video. I think it was I don't know if it was all about that. I think it was like one of those 2-hour Riverdale videos that I love to watch. But at least one segment of it was all about Fred's death scene and how it actually made no sense because they probably didn't know what the hell they were going to do with the Black Hood. But yeah, I guess regardless of like who killed him or why, it would definitely have been a good point to end the show with Fred's death. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I just think that they could have done more with him dying and then have Archie having this sort of thing where he starts to see Hiram Lodge as like a surrogate father figure.
Mm-hmm.
In
yeah, and
the
not end the show, but like, yeah, have him die, right? Because he didn't die. I was talking as if he had, because in my mind, like, yeah, but no, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that I don't know. I think there's so much material for season 2 there, and you actually give Archie like this really strong motivation against the Black Hood, and then if you don't kill him, you kind of like there isn't too much you can do with Fred at this point in the show. And also, it would allow us to explore a bit more of Archie's relationship with his mom, because his mom would have to move back to Riverdale to take care of him. There might be a thing where she wants to move back to whatever city she's in. So I don't know. There's some interesting things going on there. And you give him a stronger motivation, and also like now he needs a father figure. Oh, look, the villain of season 2 happens to be a kind of a villainous father figure that Veronica's struggling with. That's how their character arcs can
Yeah,
kind
which
of
they
emerge.
did anyway, right? Archie did start seeing her as a father figure, but
Mhm.
you know, it would have
Did
been
it
better
badly.
without. It would have been stronger without his own father. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's I don't know. I feel like they really messed up in like Riverdale was just kind of like campy bad, and like it was still like I think Riverdale is like a salvageable show in season 1 with some bad writing moments, like Jughead's infamous speech about how he's
No, that has to be that. That's like the most important part. That's the best scene, like not just in the
no,
show, but
I
ever.
kind of agree, because it's so funny and iconic, and
Yeah.
it has fueled so many memes that I don't think it could be removed. It's horrible, but it somehow works.
But actually, one of these 2-hour videos explored how, you know, the monologue might be cringe, but it was actually justified because the reason he gave that monologue was that he had told Betty he didn't like to celebrate his birthday. And
Mhm.
then she went and threw him a surprise party and then was like all upset that he didn't like it. It's like, bitch, he told you he didn't want that and you didn't listen to what he wanted. So yeah, like maybe you can't date a weirdo. Maybe you can only date like normies who live their life the same way as you, because you can't handle someone telling you that they want something different than your like preconceived notions of what you want to give people.
Yeah, Betty is so neurotypical. She needs to check her privilege. She never does. She never checks her privilege. She doesn't check her straight woman privilege when she was telling Kevin not to have gay sex. Excuse you? Kevin should be allowed to have gay sex in the woods if Kevin wants to. This is a Betty call out video now. Betty is
Yes.
problematic. And not because she kills people, but because she's rude.
Killing people we can excuse, but being rude, that's
I love my morality. It's so consistent.
But what was I going to say? Oh yeah, but I actually don't hate Betty. I mean, I kind of there are certainly moments when she's kind of like a not enjoyable person,
Mm-hmm.
but my favorite thing about Riverdale, you know, my like not the good, bad, funny thing, but like something that's really enjoyable, I think, was the whole mystery thing and Betty and Jughead trying to solve the
Mm-hmm.
mystery. I mean, I thought if the, you know, if the show wanted to be good in a more traditional way, it should have
Yeah.
probably focused on that part.
Mm-hmm. I think like Riverdale, and I think we both probably watched the same video because I'm remembering a lot of these talking points from a video I watched.
Yeah.
It could be like in a way. I think that Riverdale works because we're both kind of anti fans of the show, aren't we? You know, we
Yeah.
don't like it, but at the same time, we watch all the meme compilations, we watched all of the analysis videos, we watched the content. In a way, we do like it. In a way, Riverdale has won.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about this the other day. Like sometimes people say like the show is bad or this whatever is bad, but I like it. And that doesn't really make sense. It's like you're trying to distance yourself from something that you consider a guilty pleasure. But like if you like it, there must be something good about it. And maybe it's not something that's traditionally good, but there is something there that draws you in and that you find fun. And I would say that that's something good.
Yeah, there is a value to cringe. There is
Yes.
a value to those things. And I think that's probably kind of the reflex. They don't want to seem as bad to others for liking a thing that everyone makes fun of. So
Mhm.
they're like, well, I am also one of you who doesn't like this thing, but actually I kind of enjoy it deep down.
Yeah. I also did a Riverdale video ages ago, like 2 years ago,
Mhm.
relating it to the whole Zizek cynicism thing, right? That
Mhm.
Mark Fisher talks about in Capitalist Realism, where basically, where basically you disavow the thing and you keep disavowing it, but at the same time you keep consuming it and you keep like acting as if you enjoy it, even though you keep saying that you don't. Basically, was the point.
Yeah. And how much can we really believe that denunciation?
Yeah.
If it's so if you're so like passionate about something, obviously there's something you enjoy there. And this reflexive response to just disavow, I don't know, maybe we need to reconsider that. Maybe the response is that Riverdale is good in its own way all
Yeah.
along.
Exactly.
Or maybe both of us are just weird and different and we don't fit in and we don't want to fit in. Yeah. So I think like Riverdale is a kind of a good mix of things that I like in different ways. Like it's got the teen show angle, it's got the mystery angle, but it's also got the my love of bad drama angle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, and that's why it really works, is because it combines all of these things. And there is actually moments of competence. There's moments when you're like, wow, this is actually very well shot. This dialogue is weird, but I like the reference.
Yeah.
This is not something anyone would ever say, but because of that, it's almost more funny.
Yeah, it's kind of like a stylized kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wanted to say Wes Anderson, but I'm not going to say that because I've actually never seen a Wes Anderson film. No, I didn't see it. I saw one that was an A24 film that I got the impression was trying to imitate Wes Anderson. But I don't know. For some reason, it seems to me like Wes Anderson's stylization would be something that, wouldn't happen in real life, but it has its own kind of like unrealistic beauty to it. That's Riverdale.
Yeah. So do you like claymation?
What is that?
Claymation, stop motion animation, where you take a little
Right,
figure
right,
and
right,
you move
right.
it a little bit at a time.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was like the name of the technique or if it was the name of like some specific thing that did that. I don't know. It's fine. I mean, I guess I don't have any opinion on the technique itself. I guess it can be used for good stories or bad stories.
Yeah, definitely. I think though, what I was saying is that if it, or what I was going to say is that if you don't mind claymation, because some people do,
Oh,
a movie I would recommend that has kind of like a stop motion style and is by Wes Anderson, maybe is a little bit more accessible than some of his other movies, is I would recommend Fantastic Mr. Fox.
right.
That is a very good movie from 2009, which seemed to be a very weirdly good year for animation. It also came out with Nine, which is a movie I really like, Coraline, which is a movie I really like, Fantastic Mr. Fox, which is a movie I really like. There's a lot of really good stuff coming out that year for some reason. I don't know. It's just kind of an odd coincidence.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not like opposed to claymation.
Mm-hmm.
I'll keep that in mind. I'll check it out sometime.
Yeah. Is there any director whose works you're really like fascinated by that always hit?
No. Nah, I don't really think about movies in terms of directors. I actually started being more interested in film in the end of 2020 when
Mm-hmm.
I watched Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, I don't even remember why, but like something I've been talking to my therapist about for like years is that I used to be very strict with everything. Like, I never wanted to try anything new. And I had like this extremely rigid ideas of what kinds of things I could enjoy and what kinds of things, I wouldn't even like try because that's like the bad kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And with media, it used to be like basically I could only consume like kind of like the gothiest, edgiest media ever. So like basically, I don't know, I only like Tim Burton films and stuff like that.
Oh my goodness,
And
you were literally Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven Way.
yes. But then I, like I said, that is something I was working on in therapy. And then one of the moments that I was like very aware that like, wow, I am changing for the better was when I decided to watch Pirates of the Caribbean, even though it wasn't very gothy. And also there wasn't anyone that, well, I guess I found Jack Sparrow kind of attractive, but I thought the lead, Will, wasn't attractive. And, he and Elizabeth looked like normies. So I didn't even want to get to know them past the surface to even find out if they were really normies or not, which they're not. But yeah, I was like, oh, what the fuck? I'll just watch these movies, and I really enjoyed them. And then I was like, wow, maybe I should consume media that isn't like immediately the stereotype of what I like. And since then, I have this friend on Discord who is kind of like adjacent to like film Twitter, and she likes to watch movies and stuff like that. She has like a letterbox that she's active in, and you know, whenever she suggested movies, I was like, yeah, let's watch it, even if it was just like some random thing I'd never heard about, or something that the synopsis actually didn't interest me, but I was like, no, let's give it a chance. And then I started watching a lot more movies, and just through watching more of them, I started to, you know, be more interested in it and get more of an idea of like how to analyze it and everything like that. But I'm still not at the point where I think I can say a director I like or a director I don't like.
Makes sense. And, you know, honestly, I think maybe sometimes it's an overrated way of looking at media. Like, auteur theory is kind of like problematic. It dismisses all of the work of the women and the staff and focus on an oftentimes male director. You know, why are we analyzing film through this like very passe bourgeois lens? Why not go a little deeper and appreciate it more on the general vibes?
No, but that's true though. I mean, you never know like whose work is the film. Like it's everyone's, right? It's not just the director, it's not just the writer. I think it was a discussion I saw once about like what it means to be the writer on a film. Like, do you really write the story, or do you just like do part of it because the actual scenes, the actual acting, the photography, everything like that contributes to tell the story, right? So like who writes it, quote unquote, and it's like everyone.
Yeah, actors, directors, screenwriters, all of them have a part to play. And I think even like stuff like set design and costuming are their own form of storytelling.
Yes,
you know?
definitely.
So you did end up liking the Pirates of the Caribbean first movie. What do you feel about the ones that came after?
Yeah, so obviously the first is my favorite. Well, actually, I guess the first one, I don't know, because the thing is, the first one is the best movie, but then the second one has Davy Jones, which the first one doesn't have. So that makes it.
Touché.
Yeah. but I would say I really liked the first three. And then obviously the rest is, it's like it doesn't even exist. It's a trilogy.
Yeah, Daniel agrees with you. Art in multiple cases is a collaborative process, and don't worry about being late. You know, time is a social construct. You can come and go whenever you please, just as long as you like, subscribe, and hit the gray bell. Anyway.
Wait, someone said there are 6 in total. There are 6 Pirates of the Caribbean films.
Yeah, Disney made 3 original ones for a planned trilogy, and then to like make money in the late 10s, there were 3 more made, and I've never watched them, and I have no.
I'm not aware of the 6th. I'm aware of the 4th and 5th. What is the 6th?
Maybe it was released to obscurity in the midst of the pandemic, and was swallowed.
Do you know what it's about? Have you seen it?
Me? No.
Yeah.
But the chat will know. The chat is your answer. You know, look to the chat if you wish to know the truth.
The chat says, yeah, there are a lot of them. I usually just stick with the first 2 or 3. Yeah, no, I thought there was a 6th one in the making, but nobody really knew if it was coming out or not. And I thought it hadn't. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know either. It may be an in the works thing. It may be finished already. Once again, I have not kept abreast of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise because I only watched the first 3. And as a kid, I remember liking the second one, but not the third. I don't know. I think as a kid, I just thought there were way too many moving parts in the third one. There's also like this weird sea witch / enchantress, and she has, I think her name was like Calypso or something, and she has some sort of power, and I'm like, why is this character coming in at this last moment, and then all of this stuff happening, and I don't know, it didn't seem like it relied too much on what was built up in the first 2 movies, but more just kind of wanted to be its own sort of weird story. And there was some elements from the first 2 movies, but I don't know. I didn't like it as a kid. It's probably better than I was giving it credit for. Because just like you, I had pretentious teen/child brain. So I wanted the movies I really liked to be like high art. So I would be hypercritical of things. Like the Hercules Disney movie. I was very hypercritical of that when I was like 8 and 9 because I'm like, oh, they didn't even try to be accurate to mythology at all. Obviously, this is corporate trash. I even wrote a review of it where I called Hera the pink thing. I don't know. I don't know. It was kind of an interesting thing. I think there was once again, I guess I have a phrase that I stick with sometimes. Like I think, and I just repeat it instead of having words to say that have meaning. And I'm sorry for that, but apparently it's this new speech thing I've developed. Hopefully it goes away over the course of our conversation. I don't want it to last forever.
That's fine. I hadn't even noticed until you mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
But
I don't know.
in the third Pirates of the Caribbean film, like sometimes it's kind of hard for me to answer like which ones I like because I don't remember which scene is from which. But
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that scene with the Manny Jacks is from the third, right? Because it's after he dies at the end of the second.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate that scene. that is my least favorite scene in like all three of those films. I really wish it wasn't that because I think it epitomizes the whole like because people say there was a problem that in the first one it was written just to be like a normal pirate film, and then it was Johnny Depp that decided to make Jack a weirdo. But then in the second and the third and all the subsequent ones, they like saw that Johnny's weird sparrow worked very well, and so they wanted to repeat that, and then they started writing for a pirate that was weird. And that made it like less spontaneous than the first one. And I think that Manny Jack scene kind of, before it all went to complete shit in the fourth and fifth films, that scene I think is kind of like Jack being like a funny, eccentric pirate, but like in a way that's like, no, don't do this.
This feels like, hello, fellow kids. This is trying too hard.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like Jack Sparrow was just taking material that was written in the original movie and like giving it his own sort of weird spin.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like the like alcoholic theater dropout pirate that Johnny Depp brings in the first one. Like it's such a weird costuming and character choice, but it works so well.
It's also something I've been thinking about as I've started watching more films is that I don't really know how to judge acting. But one thing I try to think about in order to do that is to imagine like just receiving the script and think like if I would be able to make the same choices that the actors did, or like what would be the obvious choice and how they did something different from that or not different from that. And I guess the Jack Sparrow is a great example of that, right? If you just got the script, you would never imagine that the character would end up being like that with just the lines.
Yeah, as Daniel says, Jack at the start was interesting, and some people even say he was queer coded. What do you think of that? Do you think Jack Sparrow was queer coded?
I think Jack Sparrow was aromantic and asexual. And the reason that those ladies at the pier were slapping him was because he either was like bad at sex because he wasn't into it, or he outright refused to have sex with them because he was asexual. And that is the truth.
Well, we need more like asexual representation in media and aromantic.
Mm-hmm.
And also like aromantic but not asexual.
Yes.
And asexual but not aromantic. I don't know. I feel like if there is asexual representation, it's this character is basically like an alien / a robot, and their asexuality is supposed to be something that's like foreign and uncomfortable about them.
Yeah.
Or, and this is the other alternative, it's more like kind of as a response to trauma.
Yeah, or it's something like the asexual genius, like Sherlock.
Mm-hmm. I don't really like Sherlock. Also, is a weird one because I also feel like they try to make him like more straight as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. There's this sort of reflexive thing. Okay, you can either make Sherlock Holmes gay, as he was in a lot of the early fan fiction, that women were actually, no, this is something I found out in history class. Some of the first fan fictions were Pride and Prejudice, but some of the next ones were based on the works of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and they were written by various women having Sherlock and Dr.
Wow, it's
Watson get
amazing.
together.
Wow, the history of John Locke goes back centuries. Amazing.
Literally, yeah. Literally, at the time he was writing, there were people who were like, "Yeah, this could work. I sense a tension here." But unfortunately, you know, in the Moffat version, they decided to like have it just sort of hint at aspects of his character, like his drug habit and the allusions to queerness, and just sort of try to make him more straight. And it's, I don't know. Stephen Moffat is a little bit mediocre as a, like, I really like him as a writer of single things. Like if you give him like one TV show episode to write, or maybe like 2 TV show episodes to write, he's really, really good. I love some of his stuff on Doctor Who when he was given that, when there's a certain amount of oversight. But when he got like complete control with Doctor Who and Sherlock, both of those properties, I don't know. I don't think he did that good a job with them.
Yeah, I need to rewatch Sherlock because I watched it 50 billion years ago. But the thing is, I had already been primed by all the fan fiction. Actually watched it because I had already read so much fan fiction that I was like, oh, I guess I should watch the actual show, right? But then I also find it kind of hard to evaluate it because I can't even think of it as like the actual show. I think of it like as the universe, and the universe includes all the fan works. It's the same thing with Harry Potter, but with Harry Potter, I think I can evaluate the books themselves, and I think they're not very good. But I am still a huge Harry Potter fan, but it's not because I like the books and because I like the story that Joanne told. It's because I like the whole universe, including what the fans do.
Yeah. It's kind of a shame, really, that Joanne had to be the way Joanne was. I think it made people reevaluate Harry Potter, and they kind of look back and they realized, okay, maybe this story that I thought was so amazing has more flaws. You know, there are things that I like more in the books than in the movies. There are certain choices that Joanne makes that I think work better than the choices the directors make. But at the same time, there is a lot of problematic elements. Like there's this persistent hatred of fat people. Like, I don't know, I kind of have this feeling that one of J.K. Rowling's exes, or her dad, was fat or something. And like ever since then, she's decided that in all of her books, she has to make fat people look as unflattering as possible. Like there's just so many really unkind descriptions of fat people. And like, what did they ever do to you?
Yeah, and there's that, and there's other instances as well of her coming across as kind of like bitter with the way she makes her characters. Because there's the fat thing, there's also the Pansy Parkinson thing, which she said was like, that was every girl that was mean to me at school. And it's like, you're a grown woman writing a character to be a mean girl from your school. And, you know, it's not even like it's based on a mean girl, but you're going to like explore this idea of a mean girl. No, it's literally like, she wrote that character out of spite so she could describe that character as ugly and unappealing and nobody likes her. And it's like, why?
It honestly feels like a move that you could make as a 13-year-old in your fan fiction, and you'd write like a very, I actually literally did this in grade 6. I changed the names of these characters that I was going to write unflatteringly to be the name backwards of the people who were bullying me in school. So no one would ever know.
Nice.
I got an A. Daniel says, I sometimes feel a lot of the fanon is more interesting than the canon. In my case, I love more Danny Phantom in the hands of fans rather than the Butch Hartman. I think that Butch Hartman is like the male J.K. Rowling. Like he's just the creator that everyone's like, no, you don't exist anymore. I don't like you. He's like this weird, horrible Christian streaming service where he's also like praying can cure autism. It's just a rather unattractive figure. But But anyway, back onto problematic elements of J.K. Rowling's books. I think the fourth book was always my least favorite book, but it also included the worst subplot, which is Hermione should feel bad about trying to abolish slavery.
Yeah, that is because in universe it's kind of I don't know. I mean, she did create a creature that likes being enslaved, but like,
Why would you create a creature that likes being enslaved? That's
yeah, exactly.
so bad on so many levels. And also seems to go against the lore that she kind of established 2 books earlier, where it can't be that Dobby is the only one who's dissatisfied with his master.
Yeah, like it's literally in their nature as like the species that they are, but there's one outlier.
And also another, because Creature hates Sirius Black.
True.
So,
but to be fair, I guess I don't know how that works, right? Because he hates Sirius because he loves the blacks, but then Sirius hates the blacks, so he hates Sirius. But yeah, I don't know. Like, shouldn't he be loyal to the entire family? Like, does it work on the basis of blood or on the basis of what?
Mm-hmm. And he also is a black, and like the only last black who actually has that name. So I don't know, Creature. Maybe some critical support for Sirius Black might be in order here.
True.
But I don't know. I hate that plot line. So bad on so many levels, and I feel like it just exists to be like there should be something bad about Hermione, and I need Hermione to look bad in some way, but I haven't actually given a compelling reason why Hermione is bad. So she's just
which is really silly, right? Because she did have other flaws that worked just fine.
Exactly. Like the whole first book is Hermione's flaws that work just fine.
Exactly.
Like that the whole scene with her being engulfed by, oh god, what was that? That
Devil snare.
Devil snare. Yeah, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, but we don't have any fire in the books. Like she's so confused about how they're gonna get out. And then Ron has to remind her that she can use magic, and that's an interesting thing as compared to the movie where it's just she solves it and then Ron is just useless. I'm like, okay. And that was another video essay I watched about how Ron was kind of ruined by the movies.
Yeah, I saw that one too.
The movies have like an anti-Weasley bias. Like they hate the Weasleys.
Yeah, I don't know. They also hate Ginny.
Ginny is a Weasley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Poor old Ginny. Like I get that she's kind of J.K. Rowling's like not like other girls fantasy because she's athletic and good at sports. She's not like other girls.
She's the cool girl.
Yeah, she's not like Cho Chang who has emotions and needs.
Yeah.
Cho Chang is honestly like really overhated. Like all she really did was say, my friend was not the worst and doesn't deserve to have horrible things on her face all the time.
Yeah, that and crying because her boyfriend had died when she was like 14 and he was 14 too. It's like, oh my god, she has the right to be like really distressed.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the representation of Cho Chang is like, I know it's a little bit filtered through Harry's perspective, but honestly, I feel like J.K. Rowling wrote her a lot more unsympathetically than she should have. And there does seem to be a little bit of a distaste for femininity. And a lot of
yeah, definitely. That's the most evidenced by Pansy as well. Like the one girl who wears frilly pink dresses and like unicorns is the bad girl, the mean girl, the ugly girl.
Or Lavender Brown, who's shrill and silly and feminine for being interested in that. And even Dolores Umbridge is like the grown-up version of that. She likes cats and other cute things. Ugh, why doesn't she just grow up already and stop being so girly? Why does she like pink? And there's I don't like that element very much. It's a very, very internalized misogyny, and coupled with J.K. Rowling's "I wish I had transitioned or I could have been a trans guy had I heard about the transes back when I was young." I don't know.
Wait, what? Did she say that?
She did in her horrible essay. And sometimes I get the sense, Joanne, maybe if you stopped hating trans people so much for just 5 minutes, you could maybe reflect on some of the things you just said. and your overall distaste for femininity and your fascination with writing your stories through the eyes of masculine characters almost always. Maybe reflect on that, Joanne.
No, this
Why
is like
does this
really
intrigue
interesting.
you?
This is really interesting to me now because I've never read the whole essay. I've just seen people talk about it. But when I was younger, I actually had like extreme internalized misogyny to the point where I hated even Hermione, who's meant to be one of the not like other girls girl because she's not as girly. I hated her basically for being a girl, basically. You know, there were many layers to my hatred of Hermione, which was very passionate. But I was very much like not like other girls, hated femininity and everything. And there was a point when I actually thought I might be trans because I just hated women and I hated being a woman. But then I was like, no, I'm not trans. I just have internalized misogyny. And wow, look, seems like she has a bit of a similar experience there.
And the thing is, J.K. Rowling could legitimately have internalized misogyny, or she could legitimately be trans. The problem is that instead of doing that work and analyzing herself, as you were able to do at much less of her age and with much less of her resources, she chose to write weird trauma porn essays to cry to her audience of millions about how mean the trans are and how women are under attack and lesbians are under attack, even though she's not a lesbian. And she's kind of like, in many cases, talking over cis lesbians who support trans people. And it's a whole mess.
Yeah, to be entirely fair, I do think that people's ability to self-reflect can be kind of outside of their control, like almost like this just inability, this kind of like unwillingness, but it's because it's a real obstacle. But yeah, in the end, the result is that her actions were like extremely terrible.
And I don't know. Sometimes I think one of these days J.K. Rowling might have a realization about herself, but other times I'm like, she's too deep in an echo chamber. And ultimately, the harm has been done either way. And it is unfortunate that people will get angry at you for liking Harry Potter materials now because of J.K. Rowling being so wretched. And I do I honestly I do like the Potterverse, even though I understand that it could be much better. You know, it could be a lot more socially progressive. It could get rid of a lot of these weird, like internalized misogyny elements to it. It could just be so, it could be much better in many aspects of its world building as well. Like, why is there like 3 wizarding schools for Europe, and then there's 1 wizarding school for North America, and then there's 1 for South America, 1 for Africa, 1 for Asia?
And why is the South American one literally named the Portuguese word for wizard castle?
Is it really?
Yeah, it's called Castelo Bruxo, which literally means wizard castle.
J.K. Rowling using Google Translate, like, yes, no one will.
I mean, I just find it really funny because it's like, to her, it might sound like a cool word that like she doesn't really know what it means. You know, so it's like this random foreign cool sounding word. But it's like, to people who actually speak that language, the people who actually attend this school, the people who build this school, it's like, why?
We need to think of a name for our wizard castle now. Any ideas? Crickets, crickets, crickets. Okay, we'll keep Wizard Castle as a preliminary name. Don't worry, we'll change it up eventually. Never does.
That's the story. That's the law, yeah.
Daniel Galvin says, oh yeah, I hated that. The cultures here in South America are so many cultures and different interpretations of magic and mysticism. Yeah. And the thing with J.K. Rowling's like terrible world building is that honestly, with her resources, she should have just hired a creative consultant from like South America, from an indigenous person from North America, an African. And honestly, there should have been more than one magic school, especially because Latin America has more people than Europe now, I think. Just maybe think that why is this one region having many more schools than this other region? And if it has a result in like wizard colonialism, fine, but have a story, at least, please. Ugh. It feels like so half-hearted and so like, oh yeah, look, you can be represented and buy merch, people who are buying my
Yeah.
book that I don't really understand.
Yeah, exactly.
What house are you?
What house am I? I'm a Ravenclaw. There's actually this really, really good sorting hat thing. It's not even a quiz. I think there is a quiz, but more than a quiz, it's like a whole personality theory that these two people on Tumblr came up with. I forgot what it's called. I think it's Inky and Kat's sorting hat quiz. I think that's it. Where they, devise like this whole thing where it's not about like if you like eagles or serpents or if you like green or blue, but it's like a whole analysis of how the personality of each house would work. And then for Ravenclaw, basically what I remember from it and what I identified with was liking to like plan things beforehand, like not doing things in the spur of the moment, which was the trade for. And there's like this whole matrix that's kind of like a political compass where some of the houses like have overlapping things. So it's like Slytherin and Gryffindor were the houses of like more spontaneity, and then Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff were the houses that like planning more. And then Ravenclaw was also like, yeah, like you like to like gather these resources that you can use when a situation arises. And then the other thing was about like morality and like how you decide what's right and wrong and what you should do. And I think Slytherin and Gryffindor, no, I don't remember, but basically I remember that the Ravenclaw one was a kind of more logical morality. Like you don't get your morality from your peers or from tradition, but you try to like think critically about what makes sense.
Rational skeptic.
Yes, basically. And yeah, like I've always thought I was a Ravenclaw just because, my whole thing in school was like being smart and all that. But then what really cemented it was this quiz, which I found like really, really interesting. I should actually read about it again so I can explain it to people if the opportunity ever arises and I can give a better explanation than I just did.
Yeah, and if you ever find it, send me the link. I want to take it. Daniel
Sure.
says, I read an essay about how all four houses basically have the same principles, but they're presented, they feel different. That's interesting. I actually think that Hogwarts and Harry Potter started a trend in the YA genre. And in some instances, it kicked off the YA boom. In the other instance, Hunger Games really cemented it, though, for that specific like urban dystopia setting. You know what I'm talking about, right? Where like teens overthrow oppressive government. Mm-hmm. That specific genre happened a bit later, but I feel like Harry Potter was like the seminal moment for like, wow, YA is like the big hot best-selling genre right now. Anyway, with Harry Potter, and this is the problem when you go on tangents and you forget what your original point was. It's like trying to grow branches without having a tree first.
Were you going to talk about how it did the house thing and then every YA after that had like a house thing?
Yeah, like remember Divergent?
Mm-hmm.
And I always find that one's premise to be especially cringy. Like, you're telling me that only a few people ended up having more than one personality trait? And maybe the future is just full of Reddit users. I don't know.
But what house are you?
I am a Ravenclaw as well. This is why we connect so well.
Cool. Based.
Mm-hmm. But I haven't taken the good quiz yet, so maybe I'll get
Yeah, you need to take the good quiz. I thought maybe sometime I should do a video like tier list of the sorting hat quizzes where it's like the worst ones. The worst one would be probably the Pottermore one, which is literally just like, what's your favorite color? And then the best one, the S tier, would be this Tumblr one.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. Fan content out-creating the Rowling yet again.
Yes.
The one decent-ish thing about the JK is that she doesn't like try to take down fan fictions. That a lot of that that was the thing a lot of writers in the early 2000s and 90s were like really angry about, actually. Like Anne Rice, she hated the idea. She hated the idea that anyone anywhere on the internet was writing fan fiction about her works, and she'd always be like, DMCA, DMCA. And why? Like, it's honestly, it's free publicity. It's getting more people who might not have heard of your universe interested in your characters. But I think she was so wedded to the idea of total artistic control over these characters. She couldn't bear to read anyone else's version.
Yeah, like, no, they're mine.
My precious. So, what aside after Dune, what are your new projects? Can you give anyone a little update on what you think you might be creating next?
Right. So after Dune, I'm probably gonna take a little bit of a break. I mean, because my channel was like, there was a once upon a time in 2018-19, I used to upload more or less regularly. At one point it was like literally every week, which wow. And then then it was like once a month, once every 6 months. And also with this whole thing of me not wanting to do politics anymore and not knowing what I wanted to do, I also didn't make very many videos lately.
Yeah.
But then this week or this month, I guess, I did the minimalism one, which is already uploaded with English subtitles if anyone is interested to watch it. And then I made another minimalism one, which, because I just wanted to have them like together.
Mm-hmm.
But then that was at the time that Dune came out. So I was like, fuck, I need to hurry up with this Dune one before everyone stops talking about it. And so I've been working like a lot on these two videos the past, I think, 2 weeks. Like my hand hurts. So I really should take a break before I get a repetitive strain injury. But then after that, I think the next one might be an analysis of whether Sharpay is the villain in High School Musical, which I don't know if everyone is aware, like around 2019, there was this whole trend. I think it was started by BuzzFeed, or BuzzFeed was like part of it, and some YouTubers did it, saying that Sharpay wasn't really the villain. And then some other people said, no, guys, she is the villain. So I'm going to give my take on this very controversial issue of our time.
Yeah, this is the hot button issue that will decide whether the human race continues to exist or whether it perishes forever into the void.
Exactly.
Maria, our savior, you're the only one who can do it. I won't give my personal thoughts because then that might tempt you to reveal your answer before the content is done.
Yeah, right. I'll keep quiet about it. I'll just say though that just today I was thinking about like how much of a philosophical question that is. And I was thinking like maybe I'll frame it as like this super highbrow philosophy thing.
Well,
like
what is
exactly, like what is evil? And that's a question not just of morality as in like what acts are evil, but also of identity and essentialism. Like, you know, if you do bad actions, does that make you as a person evil? You know, it's very complex.
And, you know, if that's the case, you know, isn't everyone evil?
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone has done a bad action at some point. Is it repetitive bad actions that make someone evil? Is anyone evil at all? Like, how can we judge an action? Should we judge an action based on its consequences on others, on intention? Should we judge an action based on its adherence to some sort of code, like a religious code or a moral code, and consistency be what we evaluate an action for? There's all sorts of different possible interpretations. It's a very interesting sort of philosophical question. And I love philosophy because there's no real answers and no one can tell you your opinion is factually wrong. So you can't you can't under-research it, you know?
Yeah, I find it frustrating precisely because of that, but I'm still like too thirsty for answers that I'll go try to find them, even though I know I probably won't find anything that's like super conclusive. But I don't know, I'm trying to, you know, get more into a mindset like you have of just enjoying the exploration rather than trying to get to a final answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you need to solve the puzzle box.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get that dopamine rush and then progress to the next puzzle. Like
exactly.
The rats in the testing cage. I don't know. I feel like that's maybe one of the many, many things that ultimately did the centrist skeptic movement in was its sort of obsessive focus on just viewing things through a purely rational level. And ultimately, you know, that's not very relatable. Like, I understand that you can approach it through it sometimes, but like when you consider some of the, like, you've seen some of those things, like, give me a logical reason why genocide is bad. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you talking about? That's not something you can have an argument about. You know, or rather, how do you not grasp this on an intuitive, emotional level? Why do you need someone to logically prove this to you?
Yeah, and I mean, I think even most philosophers, I think, will admit that the most basic axioms are kind of arbitrary, right? And
Yeah,
arbitrary basically means feels based,
yeah,
right? Like genocide is bad because we feel bad when we kill people or when we're killed,
mm-hmm.
and that's like perfectly valid. That's not something to look down on.
Like, oh, where's the more logical answer behind that?
Yeah.
And I don't know, like this whole sort of cold attempt to like extract a machine from a human. I don't know. Like logic and reason are all very well, but I think, you know, they're just part of a package. They're not
Mm-hmm.
all we should strive to be, and cut out all feeling and just view it as a weakness and then transcide into the cyber empire. There needs to be this emotional touch, this relatability, this interest in other people.
Yeah, and like
Otherwise,
why would you even want to be rational if not to achieve some kind of happiness, right? Why
mm-hmm,
are you making these skeptic videos on YouTube if not because you enjoy it?
mm-hmm. Like, is it the pure result of reason? You know, is that the only reason you're doing things, and you feel miserable and you're losing your job and you have no friends and all your time is devoted to dunking on the feminists online and anyone who has any sort of feeling and anyone who has anything that isn't purely logic, skeptic dogma, which is basically just like liberal democracy. You know, it's when you think about it, though, really, like look past all of the fluff and all of the buzzwords. Most of their politics are conservative in the old sense of things should stay the same. I like the
Mm-hmm.
way things are. Things are not so bad.
Yeah, I find it really fascinating because they managed to. I mean, I say they, like, I was kind of part of it, where we thought of
Mm-hmm.
ourselves as, like, you know, the new punk rock, like, we're the edgelords
Mm-hmm.
standing against, like, these lame SGWs.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like the most conservative thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Daniel Galvin says, using logic and reason for everything would be 100% fine if humans weren't emotional and acted based on instinct and vibes. Yeah, like the thing is, if everyone worked rationally and was like a machine, then you could evaluate human beings that way. But since they're not, you know, it fails as a tool. Um, like,
But also, what would be the point, right? Like,
because
because
everything.
machines do things because we tell them to do things, and we tell them to
Mhm.
do things because we want to be happy. So
Yeah.
you know, if it were just machines, like, what would be the point even?
Well, the machines, the point would just be their primary directive, and there would be no philosophical conversation to have at all, because the point would just be to accomplish what has already been programmed. You know, um, that level of mechanization would be the end of philosophy and the end of conversation.
Yeah, and like the end of purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it would just be for their own survival. But I mean, why should they even want to survive? Like, is surviving good? Well, they don't know because they have no concept of good or desire or anything.
No, it's just route. It's numbers on a screen. It's And the thing is, animals don't necessarily think of purpose beyond the survival of their own species, and I think there's a meaning to that. But with a machine, their purpose isn't actually their own survival; it's to fulfill a pre-programmed function.
Yeah, like it's even more meaningless, or if there is some meaning, it's like unfathomable to us.
Mm-hmm. It might actually be interesting to have a philosophical debate with an AI once it actually develops to that level. Like, I actually want to know their mind. You know, that actually interests me. But the thing is, because humans at this point in time cannot become machines, cannot operate on a purely logical rational level, the skeptic, cause was doomed from the start. And it was trying to make analysis of the world based on assumptions that could never be true at this particular moment in time.
Yeah, one of my first videos, there was like a response to a skeptic, because at a point I was in this whole like anti-skeptic video response genre when I was a Destiny fan. And one of the videos was a response to Roaming Millennial on a video of hers where she basically looked down on emotional intelligence. And I was saying that, like, no, feelings are a thing that exists, and like the rational, intelligent thing to do would be to like be aware of them and learn to identify them and learn to deal with them and use them for the purposes that we want to use them for. So to accomplish all this, the skill that you need is emotional intelligence. If you don't have emotional intelligence, then your feelings are going to take over you because you're trying to like not even be aware of them. So you can't like control them or use them in the most productive way.
Yeah. And look what happens, when you end up trying to ignore them, as Roaming Millennial has done. Like, what is her content now? Or what is her content ever? Just purely grift based.
I literally don't even know what her content is now, because who is Roaming Millennial?
Does Roaming Millennial know who Roaming Millennial is? Football 17776. Daniel Galvin says, speaking of the Ghost in the Machine, you should both check out the webcomic Football 1776. I'm going to put webcomic 1776 in the description after this is done, because I'm interested in checking out that webcomic. I love webcomics. They're cool, especially if they involve wolves, my favorite animal. So I was wondering, Maria, if you have any sort of concluding statement you'd like to make. I've had a lot of fun with this stream. I think we should talk more, which was also the conclusion I came to the last stream we did 3 years ago. So maybe we'll work on that a little bit better.
3 years from now.
3 years from now, we'll check in again. Hey, I'll be 24. How you doing, Maria? We'll all be aged. Gray hairs will start to appear. And
no, but I did enjoy the stream. I enjoyed the last one too. And I think this one was really, really fun because we actually got to discuss a lot of media instead of politics. So yeah, that was really fun.
Yeah. And I know, I like that, and maybe this is a step that I should take myself, is, well, you can recognize that there is a political element in almost nearly everything. To kind of turn politics into entertainment and a personality in your only sort of hobby, as you said in your videos, it's unhealthy. It drains you, and it doesn't actually leave you much energy to take action in the real world. More so just become kind of angry at various different sellouts and fake people. And you're constantly trying to be like, oh, that's a fake, that's a fake, that's a fake. And then there's no energy left for a real struggle. It's just, you've wasted it all.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even if you wanted to think of it in terms of, I don't know, like everyone has to be helping political causes. I would say that I would be more helpful if I became like a successful in the sense of like, I don't know, actually managing to make interesting videos that people enjoy in their downtime. I think that would actually be more useful for the struggle. To give people something to keep them entertained when they're like relaxing, than for me to be doing what I was doing, which was accomplishing literally nothing, neither for me nor for anyone else.
I think that's very wise of you, Maria. And I wish you the best of luck. I will continue to enjoy the content that you produce. And yeah. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and have a great day. Thank you for coming on the show, Maria.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It was my pleasure. All right. Ta-ta for now.
Bye.